So a couple of weeks ago, I was teaching a leadership course over in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that we were focusing on was how to make better human connection. Excuse me. So one of the things that we were talking about was how we could, just a second, how we could pay more attention and connect with people in a distracted world. That little scene that you just saw there, how many times does that happen to you when you're talking to someone else during the day? Or worse, how many times do you do that to someone in the middle of a conversation? Stop what you're doing, answer a text, look at your phone, i.e. become distracted. Microsoft has done a study that has shown that the goldfish has an average attention span of 9 seconds. And the average human today has an attention span of 8 seconds. Singularly tied to the digital distractions in our world. Our attention span is 1 second less than a friggin' goldfish. But check this out. The guppy has an attention span of 15 seconds. So what I'm telling you as you're watching this right now, the guppy has almost 2 times the attention span of a human being living in the United States and other countries around the world. 2 times the attention span of your kids, 2 times the attention span of your clients, 2 times the attention span of your boss, and guess what? A good chance 2 times the attention span of you and me. What do you think about that? What do you do about that? What do you do to address that kind of distraction in your world? Whether you're trying to sell a product or a service or build a business or raise donor money or get your kids to listen to what you're saying about coming home on time, right? Or make a deeper connection with your spouse. How do you lead when there's that kind of distraction in the world, right? So when you've heard me talk earlier about the enemy we're up against, this month is all about know your enemy. I'm not talking about the enemy, right, in the physical sense. What I'm talking about are the enemies to the tracks that you want to leave, the enemies to the higher purpose that you want to serve, right? A lot of that is behavior. A lot of that is culture. I mean, that's what rooftop leadership is all about, in fact, is a movement, right? To get up on the rooftop and lead differently, to take the mic from the amateurs who have it, to take the mic in such a way that even the people who are distracted, right, hear the message and see what's possible for their own lives. So many of the people who we want to lead, so many of the people who we want to have an impact with, right, they are distracted. But they're not the enemy. The distraction is the enemy. So how do you cope with that? How do you deal with that as a leader? Well, I'm telling you, the way you prepare and the way you come at that is absolutely everything. This is a muscle. This is a skill. I teach this all over the world, right? I had to do this as a Green Beret. I still train Green Berets in law enforcement to go into places that are highly distracted and make deep connections where people will stand up and do things they otherwise wouldn't do. And that's what you have to do now in your world. I'm going to give you a couple of tips to help you overcome what Wes and I lovingly call the Guppy Effect. So that when you're sitting there talking, yep, there comes a call in right now. Just a second, I just got to take this here, right? Where that doesn't happen, right? Where even if that does happen, you can still get through it. You can still connect. The first thing I'm going to tell you that you have to do is you got to do the homework before the legwork. If you're going to address people, I don't care if you're doing a launch through digital marketing for your product, or whether you're doing sales calls, or whether you're going to get up in front of your peers or your teammates or your subordinates at work and give your leadership vision, or whether you're going to talk to your kids about coming home on time from curfew. The first thing I always say is do your homework before the legwork. Make sure you understand the audience that you're talking to. Take the time to know what they're about and how you can meet them where they are. No one does this. There's so much information out there, so much readily accessible to us on the internet. You can talk to other folks who have dealt with them, who have given talks in that space. You can read what other experiences have been from people, but do the homework before the legwork. Before you get up in front of people, know what it is that you got to do. I see these speakers all the time, or bosses. They'll get up in front of people and they'll be like, yeah, so this is what we're going to, this is why I'm here. And they're not even connected to the people in the audience. And so the second that happens and people see that you haven't done your homework on them and you don't know them, what do, Wes? And you can see it out in the audience. People on their phones, right? So do the homework before the legwork. That's the first thing to overcoming the Guppy Effect. The next thing, you got to hook them. You got to hook them. When you get in front of people, I don't care if it's your kids, I don't care if it's your peers, I don't care if it's if it's a Facebook Live, right? If you'll notice, most of my Facebook Lives, I start off with a story. Just now, a little bit of a riff there by looking at my phone to kind of hook you and go, oh, what's that about? Right? Humans are normally curious creatures, and if you can hook through a thoughtful line, a thoughtful question, a story, a narrative, something like that, even a physical gesture, or even the way you just walk out and look at people and just use silence, they will stop and they will connect with you, right? At least they'll suspend disbelief long enough to see what you say next. You got to hook whoever you're dealing with, right? And that takes some forethought. That means you've got to know your people. I want to go back to the homework before legwork, right? One other thing I didn't say about this. Know their wants, know their pain points. Know their wants and know their pain points. If you're selling a product to a client, what do they want? And really spend time on that. And what are their pain points externally, internally, and even bigger picture? What are the things that keep them up at night, right? That's really, really important. And the more you can know that, the more you can come out and right out of the gate, you can hook people with a thoughtful line or a gesture or whatever. And then the third thing is make them the hero. When you're addressing people in this highly distracted world, too often we talk about ourselves. In this sea of selfies, we're always taking pictures of ourselves, or I this, or I that. Count the number of times that people say I when they're having conversation, right? When you really want to connect with people, if you want to overcome the Guppy Effect, if you want to stand out in a crowded market, if you want to be heard with resonance and relatability and be relevant, right, then make the other party the hero. Paint for them a picture on a canvas, transfer imagery through story, right, and thoughtful words and gestures that tell them what their life will be like if they work with you, if they follow this vision, if we row together on this project. Right? And I'm not talking about pie in the sky stuff. I'm talking about authentic, transparent communications where you paint a picture of what it'll look like and what it'll feel like if you join me on this journey. Here's what I'm building, right? And this is what it means to you. This is, and empower them. I need your help. Come with me. People really respond to that. It's authentic, it's natural, and it's true, and it's very, very powerful, right? So make them the hero in the communication engagement that you're doing, and you'll get a totally different response from people. One final thing I'm going to say on this before Wes makes me get off the camera is your story that you tell. If you want to overcome the Guppy Effect, don't use PowerPoint, don't use Excel spreadsheets, right? And certainly don't lead with them. If they're absolutely necessary, fine, right? But no, you should always lead with a story. The story should always be personal in nature in the beginning. It should have some emotional tie to it, maybe some struggle or conflict, right, and how you overcame it, right, and then resolution at the end to show change or what you've learned, right? Story is a powerful way, whether that story is personal or whether it's the organizational story for your business or your nonprofit. Spend some time working on that. If you want to overcome the Guppy Effect, right, and reach people who have an attention span of 8 seconds, tell them a story, even if it's on Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat. There's a reason that Instagram and Snapchat have stories on them, although almost no one is telling a story in that sense. If you can do that, I'll tell you what, it's a powerful thing. And then you say, okay, well, but I can't hook people in a short story, right? It's impossible to tell a story that short in an 8-second attention span, right? How about this? How about I tell you a sad story in 5 seconds, right? Hemingway had a bet with a reporter that he couldn't tell a sad story in 5 seconds. Let's give it a shot. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. Don't tell me you can't tell a story in less than 8 seconds. You absolutely can. You just got to do the work. Make sure you're following me on Instagram at rooftop_leader, on Twitter at Real Scottman, Official Scottman on Facebook. Make sure you also go to rooftopleadership.com and enroll in our weekly video blogs. These come out every week. And on the YouTube channel, how many do we have now, Wes? Like 30 some episodes like this that you can just surf through on YouTube. Subscribe there and share with your friends. Share these videos with your friends. This is a movement about leadership. Overcome the Guppy effect. Stand out in that crowded market, in that crowded field, and lead from the rooftop. Thanks for what you do.